Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm Lennon. How you guys doing? And welcome back to yet another top 5 video on our Sunday. So today we are diving into top 5 best army compositions for a multiplayer in Total War Rome 2. So whether you're a competitive veteran or just getting started in the arena, the next army builds that I'm about to show you balance strength, flexibility, efficiency. So perfect for dominating basically every battlefield. Each army comes with its own strengths and weaknesses, and a few key strategies that we'll take into account. So stay till the end and find out which army might truly reign supreme. But before we start, I do have to preface this is my subjective opinion, so please don't roast me too hard in the comment section down below. However, let's start at our number 5 spot. Our number 5 spot starts with Macedon, where you can see the following army composition that I have displayed out for you guys. So we start out with, let's say, a few pikemen. Ideally would be 5 to 6, although you do have you're a little bit short on funds for the 6th normal pikemen. So there is a little bit to say in quality, but you could choose to grab yourself an every extra levy pikeman just to make a little bit of a better front line. Pair that with 2 main units of Royal Peltas, which are your, let me get the unit info a bit better. So pikemen are your standard pikemen, of course. You could go harder, but then you would have less. Pair them up with 2 Royal Peltas units, which is one of your best melee infantry unit, which is basically your tank and your killing machine. And pair that up with 2 mercenary Thracian warriors as well, which are very devastating flanking units, but kind of a bit of a glass cannon. So when your frontal pikes are doing the massive fighting, these guys are very good for cleaning up the lines and the rear charging aspect of that. We pair it as well with at least 3 missile units. Your preference could go to difference on fighting, like if you're fighting a heavily armored like Rome, your options might be better with going with either javelins or peltas, but archers do have a very good long-range capability. Sorry about that, just had to cough a little quick. Archers do have a very decent long-range capability. You could also go for the Cretans, but that takes up like a lot of extra funds comparing these to each other. Whereas, yeah, they are a bit stronger, but not too much difference. They have a little bit more range. It's give or take. And at last, our cavalry department is our general unit of companion cav, which is a heavy shock cav, and we pair that with another 2 units of companion cav. So we have 3 cavalries, which are heavy shock cavs, 3 archers, 2 heavy devastating flanking units, 2 units to support your front line and your front line of pikemen. So go over the general strength of this army. You have an incredibly strong frontal defense with your long pikeman reach. Companion cav are pretty much one of the most elite flanking units, well, the most elite flanking units you can offer as Macedon, which can be devastating for hammer and anvil attacks. And you do have a very good balance between your infantry support and your missile supporting, both for your pikemen. Your weaknesses in this army is you are pretty much vulnerable for rear attacks and flanks, because pikemen are very static. So next to the fact that you're vulnerable to flank and rear attacks, you're also having a very limited mobility, static formations, which might even struggle a little bit more on rougher terrain. And it requires pretty strong micromanagement to protect your pike from cavalry rushes and protect your archers from the rear attacks and cavalry flanking you around. So all in all, this brings us to our number 5 spot, because with proper positioning and patience, Macedon can hold the line like very few others in the game. Just the basic concern here is just don't get caught with your flanks exposed. So with that being said, let's go on towards our number 4. And at our number 4 spot, we have the versatile veteran, and that is Carthage. The jack of all trade faction, basically. As Carthage, you can adapt to almost any enemy, making them one of the most balanced armies in Rome 2 multiplayer. So this is just one of the many different setups that you can do with Carthage, since you have such a big range of basically everything that you can field and want field. But just for the sake of diversity and balancing armies that we're talking about today, this is one of the armies that you could very well handle on the battlefield. It makes out a decent infantry portion with like 4 Libyans alongside 2 sacred bands. So this is your core infantry attack heavy swordsmen, flanked with 2 sacred bands, which are very heavy hoplite units. Very good stats, 60 defense, 105 armor, good morale, good weapon damage, and melee attack for a spear unit. Alongside that, you have 3 units of mercenary Numidians. You could even go for a 4th one, but you're just short of money. Or you could go for the mercenary nobles, but that means you will have to scrap some of this due to it being pretty expensive. Alongside, you have 2 to 3 Balearic slingers, but also it's pick and choose, because like if we get rid of one of the elephants, we can get an extra unit of Balearics and even a unit of Numidian nobles. So be that as it may, you can switch up between a few of those. In this case, I had this going for me right now, which is 2 Balearic slingers, and then as your sucker punch units, you have the 2 African elephants, which can do amazing good damage if used correctly. So we do have a couple of funds left, which we can alter some cavalry in there, like maybe another unit of light horse, so you have a little bit more mobility next to your Numidian horses. You could go for another unit of missiles, so a heavy missile unit, which is also pretty decent in melee attack. Or you could even go for another unit of like Iberian swords, New Battalion swordsmen. Get just that little bit of extra front line in there to sustain the army. So as an overall strength in this army is the excellent combined arms potential. Like there is really a lot of potential that you can do. You can always get a few mercenary noble fighters instead of elephants, because these guys are absolutely insane too. Elephants, on the other hand, can be very interesting too, can break enemy morale pretty much instantly if you're using them correctly. And you have very good accessibility to durable frontline infantry like the Libyans, the Sacred Band, or even the Hoplites, maybe even some pikemen in there as well. Your weaknesses are that basically all your units are very expensive. So your elite units like the Sacred Band, the Noble Fighters, the Elephants, which are very elite units, are very expensive. So it's easily to overinvest, which leaves you maybe up in like rarity and late game units, but just low in numbers. Elephants, on the other hand, are a pretty double-edged swords. They can really destroy your enemy, but they can be very good countered with javelins or fire, or maybe even spears or pikes. So it requires you careful balance between the offense of your units and the defense of your units. So all in all, Carthage versatility makes it deadly, but you will need to master timing and coordination to truly unleash the power that this roster has to offer. So that being said, let's go towards our number 3 spot on the list. And at number 3, there's probably not really a big surprise here. It is Rome. The Roman legions remain one of the most well-rounded and dependable armies in the game. So, for example, we have a composition that looks like this, and again, with Rome, there is so much availability of units that you can very much mix and match with whatever you like. So I took this one as a pretty standard, decent army. which is very heavy infantry focused, with our 5 legionary cohorts, very well-rounded infantry, good numbers, good units, good attack stats, good defense stats. Pair that with 2 Praetorians to put them between your lines of cohorts, which will very much be in your favor, since the Praetorian Guard, where is it, have the encourage ability, which provide a morale bonus to nearby allies. So if you put them like 2 legionaries, then a Praetorian, 2 legionaries, then a Praetorian, so all your legionary cohorts have an extra morale boost due to your Praetorians being nearby. That is a very good, strong core infantry line. Pair it with 3 Syrian auxiliary archers, so you have a good long-ranged capability as well. Pretty decent, good archer unit. One of the few that Rome can muster. You could go for Balearic Slingers in this composition. You would have the money to do so. So that's a little bit of a mix and match, but Syrian archers have a little bit more damage output, a little bit less shots per minute. So it's a mix and match what you truly desire to do with that. We do have a Legatus as a general's bodyguard, and compare that with 2 Praetorian Cav, which are your, I believe, one of your best units that you can get for this kind of money. You could go with one less, like maybe the auxiliary Cav, and get something more, a unit more in there. I think you would be able to get maybe 1 or 2 units actually in there. Like, let's check. If we get rid of those 2, see, we would get 3 instead of 2. So it is a little bit of a numbers game compared to maybe a little bit more the stats game. But with 3, you have a decent sized core infantry or core cavalry compartment as well. I did have a little bit of extra money left, so I put into these 2 of these spear gladiatresses, which have very decent attack stats and good melee defense. So they will be able maybe to on the flanks or in the back lines protecting your archers from enemy fire. So all in all, if we take a look at Rome's strengths and weaknesses, as of Rome, you have an unmatched infantry quality and morale. You have a very flexible and even maybe forgiving army setup, because like if you put in some armored legionaries instead of the cohorts, Praetorian or Praetorian Guard, it doesn't really bother too much. Like, it's very forgiving for trying out. And you have basically everything in your arsenal to be a counter to most of what your enemy will try to point at you, to go at you. On the other hand, Rome is kind of predictable. So a lot of experienced players do know how to counter Rome very well, because that game's been out so long and so many players just think, oh, Rome is the powerhouse, let's play Rome. There are a bunch of tactics that counter Rome very heavily, so do be careful of that. So you have a moderate cavalry build here. You have a little bit limited cavalry options. So be careful against like cavalry heavy builds with cataphracts and other heavy horse archers and all that sort of stuff. And Rome might be able to struggle, or can struggle, against like heavy pike lines or heavy elephant based armies, since the elephants will will just run over these legionaries as well. So, all in all, if you want consistency, Rome delivers, but expect tough matchup against factions that exploit your mobility or their range. So, let's start at number 2. Which one gets our silver medal in this video today? So, at number 2, we have the Middle East. We have Parthia. So, taking our second place, we gallop east with Parthia. Parthia are the masters of mounted warfare. Holy shit, that was a tongue twister. This army is all about speed, harassment, and mostly tactical strikes. So if we take a look at this army, we have a royal cataphract general, we have 4 eastern cataphracts, which is your pretty much basic cataphract unit. We have 3 Parthian horse archers for mobility and firing on the move. And then we have our trump units, which are or key units, which are 2 units of Royal Cataphracts, which are quite amount of better than your normal Eastern Cataphracts, which can play very well into towards the late game. And to complement this, we have a little bit of a cheap kind of anchor idea with some Persian hoplites and some Eastern spearmen. You could get rid of the hoplites and get a couple of units of spearmen extra, and maybe get an extra cavalry unit in there as well if you would like, just to hold some extra units. And with that, you have a little bit of, yeah, an infantry holding place, to say, for your cataphracts to do most of the destroying work with that. And again, here there is a little bit of more of mobility. You could go for like a more horse archer heavy army, get rid of some of the cataphracts and put in some maybe some elite noble horse archers or some armored horse archers, because noble horse archers are as well still pretty decent in melee combat. Not in prolonged fights, but like this you have a range of like 7-8 horse archers with some cataphracts, and then maybe still some cheap infantry to hold against the onslaught, and then just wreck everything with your cataphracts. So the strengths of this army is there are exceptional mobility and flanking power with the horse archers, the mobility of cavalry, and the destroying flanking power of the cataphracts. You have a combination of deadly horse archers to provide constant pressure on your enemy to make dumb mistakes or dumb moves, bait them into certain directions, because you can counter horse archers with slingers, but your normal cavalry will not catch these horse archers. So it's very good. Yeah, can be very deadly, to say the least. And in the late game, you still have a very strong potential if you get some of these cataphracts to survive until late game when morale is low. These cataphracts can still do a lot of damage towards the late game. So the weaknesses of this army is you have a very weak infantry corps. So either bring some of it to hold the lines or don't bother at all with it, I would say. Your horse archers and cataphract can be vulnerable to concentrated missile fires, especially close-range javelins once the cataphracts are in battle or in charging mode. And of course, with horsemen and a lot of cavalry, it's very high micro-intensive. You have to be able to very well micro all of these different pieces on the board to make full use of them. So all in all, Parthia rewards skillful players who can kite, surround, and strike at the perfect moment. This is basically the true hit and run king strats of the ancient world. So that was our number 2. So let's get on with our number 1 for today. And at number 1, as you can see, we have Egypt. This faction combines basically everything: durability, power, and flexibility, making it one of the most effective and popular choices in competitive multiplayer. So again, with Egypt, you have a very balanced, expendable roster. So one of the armies, I've got a few in mind that I can show you for this, is we have a cavalry contingency including the general of 3 Ptolemaic calves, which is your heavy shock calf, the only one available for the Egyptians. Our missile corps is 3 Egyptian archers. They are pretty much very cheap and still do decent damage. You could decide to go upgrade towards Nubian bowmen, but it is a little bit more expensive, even the Cretans or the Balearics, or Rhodians, sorry. As your infantry corps, I decided with 2 Royal Peltasts as your hardcore infantry corps, supported by 3 Thoric swords. And it might be a little bit of a weird pick, the Sobek Cultist, which is all in all not the best unit, but they do have the ability, passive ability to scare everyone. So morale can get quite low in these situations if you have your Sobek cultist in the back lines charging in after the swordsman and the peltist are in battle. I did decide to put in 2 Thurio spears for the flanks, just for the javelins, and maybe fend off some cavalry that is going after our archers. But again, here there is so much flexibility in what you can do with this. So we could get rid of the Ptolemaic half, let's say, and maybe 1 unit of archers and get your unit of elephants in there as well. So with that you have the scare everyone of the cultist, and then rear charge with an African elephant who has a scare everyone ability as well. You can do a lot of damage that way as well. We still have 230 left, so that means we can still get maybe a unit of Egyptians just to fill the gaps and maybe do some of a little bit of charging. But again, there you have the ability to field more different cav, even chariots, even if that is not a really good pick in or a really cherished pick in multiplayer these days, but it still can be fun to try them out. So all in all, the strengths of Egypt, you are highly adaptable, solid melee, range and cavalry options for you to choose from. Sorry. They are, in comparison to most of the factions, especially Carthage, fairly cheap units, while still can be very effective and unit a lot of variety in your roster. You do have an excellent morale and balanced playstyle, and included with the scare everyone, your morale will peak over your enemies. So your weakness is pike units can be a little bit cumbersome. We don't have a lot of pike infantry, but you could still set up a pike line if you wanted to. Your mid-tier cav, like you have good shock cav, but your melee cav is a little bit on the weaker side. With the citizen and Egyptian cav being the best, so you will struggle against heavy cav factions like the Parthians or maybe even the Praetorian cav that Rome can field. A little bit of, as Egypt, you're a little bit of a jack of all trades, means no single overwhelming strengths, so you can do anything you want basically, but they're not the best in anything they can field. So that is a bit maybe why you're not agreeing with me on this number 1, but just due to the variety of playstyles that you can field with Egypt and the cost effectiveness of the units, I did find this a number 1 pick. So ladies and gentlemen, there we have it for today. This is my personal top 5 army compositions for Total War Rome World 2 multiplayer. Yet again, I don't have the most experience in this, so quote me, do not roast me too hard. But which one do you think will dominate the battlefield? So let me show you in the comments. Drop your favorite builds in the comments down below. And let's start a little bit of a discussion on what is the best faction, what is a better playstyle, so that maybe newer players can enjoy this game still. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have to offer for you guys today. So I just want to say thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace!